Bitcoin is trading at $107,500, and I think the Bitcoin cycle top is in at 124,000. It is September 1st. That means the monthly candle just closed. We got more information to look at the charts to help us decide what is more likely to happen in September. So there's 4 months left of the year. There's only a maximum of less than 2 months until Bitcoin reaches the longest that it's ever gone after the halving in terms of a bull cycle. And I believe based on the monthly close that the top for Bitcoin could be in. But we could still see a rotation of money from Bitcoin into Ethereum and maybe altcoins before the final top is in. In this video, I'm going to share with you all my thoughts based on the data and the probabilities why I just said these things. And hopefully that helps you make a better decision for your own trades and investments. Whether you're bullish or bearish, you can trade the markets both ways. And if you're looking for a great exchange to trade, look no further than BLOFIN exchange. And if you use the link in my description down below, my referral link, then you will automatically also be eligible for tons of bonus campaigns and giveaways that I do every single month for my referrals. The details are down below. If you need a place to trade, sign up using my link. Let's start out with the Bitcoin monthly returns because the month is now in and August was red, minus 6.49%. The pattern of a green August before a bear market year did not play out for the 4th time in a row. So we had a red August. The only good thing about this is that now it has met the criteria that every single year without exception since 2013, we have had either a red August or September. So at least we've had a red August. That doesn't guarantee September is going to be green, but at least one of the 2 months is now already red. September, as you can see, on average is the worst month in terms of performance, even though it's only single digit negative. It's minus 3.49% down on average. So let's see what we get this year. Now, before we look at the charts, I think this is still the most important thing to focus on because that's the data that we have for Bitcoin's history since it launched. So you can see the black over here on this chart is the current cycle compared to previous cycles. And the longest that any Bitcoin cycle has gone past the halving is 550 days. We are currently 498 days. That means there's only about 52 days left to reach that same maximum length, and there's no guarantees that we have to reach that same length. So at this point in time, based on these cycles, the criteria is already met. If a top comes in here now, it wouldn't be any sort of surprise based on this historic data. So finally, moving over to the Bitcoin monthly chart here on Bitstamp, and you can see this is the red candle that closed for the month of August. And why it is not nice at all, in my opinion, if you can see here, I basically think it's the same here. It's a tweezer top. You can see these 2 wicks to the upside, especially with last month's wick having been slightly higher than the previous one. Look what happened in November 2021, this exact same kind of setup. Look what happened even here. Previously, we had a similar type of tweezer top, and we got a big red month from 102 all the way down to 78. We have this now. And I think it's just, it looks toppy, you know. You never know for sure. You can't tell the future with 100% certainty. But based on the probabilities, I would say, if I had to guess, I think this is a very high chance of a top being in. Now, it could end up being a local top once again, where maybe in a few months down the line, we do continue higher still. But based on the cycle timing and how close we are in the maximum cycle length, and the fact that we now have 3 thrusts as an RSI bearish divergence, I think there's a decent chance that the top is actually in. And he also seems to think so. You think the top is in? Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, okay. He just wanted to say hello. So yeah, we have this 3 thrust bear RSI divergence here. We had a 2 thrust one in the previous cycle. You can see the RSI makes a lower high and the price makes a higher high, and it's not confirmed, and then we are followed by bear market. On top of that, if you add in what's actually happening with companies who have been buying billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin, the fact that we have ETFs, Sailor has bought tens of billions of dollars, and the price is not going up, it's actually going down. What does that tell you? It means that all that buying pressure is not enough to push us higher, and it means there's a lot more selling happening behind the scenes. That is why the price is going down, because it's all about supply and demand. Or it could simply be a question of that there is a massive amount of fraud going on. Paper Bitcoin, so for example, trading more Bitcoin than there actually is, not doing it on chain. But maybe even completely fraudulent reporting where companies are saying they're buying billions of dollars. Are they really? Do we have the proof that they're buying it? So whatever the reason is, the fact of the matter is the price is not going up, it's going down. We're nearing the end of the cycle. We have a 3-thrust monthly bearish RSI divergence. We have a weekly RSI divergence. We have these tweezer tops. I would call that the top is in for Bitcoin. And that also means that I will be looking for swing shorts if we get any sort of bounce up to maybe 114,000, because you can see here previously what tends to happen, even if a top candle is put in for the month, the next candle, so this month, could potentially go anywhere between 30 and 50% of the candle body, which would put us somewhere between maybe 110 and 114,000. Maybe if things go a little bit crazy, 117,000. But I'm looking for swing shorts on any bounces on Bitcoin. And as you can see here, the 50 monthly moving average is around about 53,000. I think we're going to go into the 50s or 40,000s in the next bear market. That is my guess right now. And we'll see how things develop. If we look at the weekly chart over here, you can see this looks absolutely just cooked. It is done, in my opinion. We have 3-thrust bearish RSI divergence, same as on the monthly, but you can see it very clearly visible here on this weekly chart. You can also see over here this wick that it made above. This is just a complete kind of toppy thing, and as you can see, we're dropping here on the weekly already. Now we have the line in the sand, which has always been the case, the 50-week moving average, which you can see it has held to support, and every time, as long as it holds its support, we are still technically bullish. It did the same previous cycle. But once we lose the 50-week moving average, the chance of the bear market coming and another 50 to 60% drop from that level becomes very, very high. So at this point in time, that is about $96,000, which we're getting closer and closer to by the week at this point. So the problem becomes we have had 2 tests already here of this 50-week moving average. And I suspect that if we touch it a 3rd time, that's going to be the time when it breaks. I think if we retouch 96K this time, I don't think we get the same bounce again. I don't think it does it 3 times in a row. And that means if we get a weekly close back below 96,000, it confirms the bear market. And then the probability of another 50 to 60% drop, which is, like I said, somewhere in the 50 or 40,000s as the bear market low target, becomes much more realistic. So that's Bitcoin. Personally, I'm looking for swing shorts if we get any sort of bounce to be able to short it somewhere, like I said, between, I don't know, 114, maybe that's even too high, 114 to 117,000. Now, that is Bitcoin. And as funny as it may sound, if you don't understand crypto and you don't understand the relationships between Bitcoin and the altcoins, it's possible for Bitcoin to have topped, but for Ethereum and altcoins to still have a push higher. And I'm going to try and show you that on the chart right now, because how it basically happens is all the money first goes into Bitcoin. It's the biggest coin, it has the largest market cap, the longest history. Okay, but once Bitcoin tops, the other coins, Ethereum and other altcoins, are still relatively lower and still have more potential. So we see people taking profit in Bitcoin and rotating it over into Ethereum and other altcoins. And that is exactly what has been happening these last few weeks. We can even verify that publicly on chain, where there has been a whale who's been selling thousands and thousands of Bitcoin, but buying Ethereum with that instead. So you can see this was initially 8,000 sold this weekend and 2,000 remain. But as it's been updated, 10,000 BTC has been sold, and this has been rotated into Ethereum. So you can see here the Bitcoin OG who bought 3.85 billion is back at it. He deposited 1,000 Bitcoin into Hyperliquid to dump and buy Ethereum spot. So this is just one massive whale. He had thousands and thousands of Bitcoin. He's been selling that on the Hyperliquid exchange and buying Ethereum. So that is exactly what I'm saying. We see this rotation, and that's why I believe it's even more likely that what I'm saying is true. Bitcoin has likely topped based on just the technicals, everything that I shared with you just now. But we could still be seeing that rotation into Ethereum and then maybe into like Dogecoin and other altcoins in the next few weeks to see a pump there for the complete cycle top. I do believe we are very near to the complete cycle top. My guess would be the next 2 months, if we even have that long. And that would also mean that anyone who's holding any spot, especially altcoins, the higher we pump on anything, especially if it happens in the very near future, I believe that's a sign to just get out of your positions, to take profit, to reduce risk, and not increase risk like most people think. You know, they start to think, oh, as it goes higher, we're getting early into a massive pump. No, that's a trap. Don't buy the top. Buy low. You should have bought already. And as it keeps going higher, remove initial, take profits, and eventually get out of the markets completely. For altcoins, in my opinion, again, you need to make your own decisions what you do with your money, but I wouldn't want to hold any altcoins in the next bear market. And even BTC is questionable. Do you really want to go through a 50, 60, 70% drawdown? Of course, there's different strategies. Okay, if you have a Bitcoin stash that you're planning on never selling and you only dollar cost average, that's separate. But if you have a trading portfolio where you bought Bitcoin at 20, 30, 40,000, are you really going to have ridden that up and then ride it all the way back down? When it comes to trading, no, because you want to buy low, sell high, increase your capital. When it drops, you buy again, and you repeat that until you compound your capital. Okay, so different strategies for different people, but you should consider what you're going to do with your portfolio before we're already 50, 60% down, because by that point, it's going to be too late to take any action. So we have Ethereum, which is currently still trading at $4,370. And you can see that looks completely different to the Bitcoin chart. You can see it's still been a green month for August. And this is still a very strong trend in Ethereum. We also haven't properly swept the all-time high. Yes, we got a little wick above it, and technically, yes, we did make a slight new all-time high. But due to this rotation, that's why I say, and based on this chart also, I do think it's possible that potentially in the next 1 to 2 months at most, we still see another wick higher, especially with this rotation of capital from Bitcoin into Ethereum, as I showed you, where the whales are selling Bitcoin to buy Ethereum. If that continues, and as long as Bitcoin doesn't completely crash, then we might still see Ethereum take a run at 5,000 or 5,500 or so. But I do believe that that is probably also going to be the top. And that is something to watch on the lower time frames. If it does that and it shows signs of exhaustion, it gives a very nice opportunity for potentially swing shorts that you can hold all the way in the bear market. And I do not think it's impossible that in the next bear market, we are going to sweep the 2022 lows, which is well below $1,000. So imagine you can catch a swing short from above 5,000 to all the way below 1,000. That is going to be a juicy one. So I think something like this is not impossible. It's not guaranteed, but I think we could see a nice sweep of the highs, and then a drop back in the range would be a trigger for shorts and all the way back down, potentially in 2026, which is likely going to be the bear market. I'm not going to go through individual altcoins in this specific video because it's already long enough. I'll make another video on that soon. But we can look at the total market cap. So this is the market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is basically altcoins. And you can see this is also basically in a range, but we are starting to run out of steam here. Also, as you can see, there's already a bearish RSI divergence here on the monthly. That's kind of building up over here. We have the highs. So we might see something like this where I say the rotation into Ethereum and altcoins could be possible. If we see that into altcoins, we could see a sweep of the highs and a drop, and that would be a range. And then in the next bear market, we go all the way back down to the range low. You can see here, if I change this to weekly, we had the bearish RSI divergence between these 2 points already. So we could make a third one for a third thrust. This could go a little bit higher, in which case we'd have a weekly 3 thrust RSI divergence, the sweep of the highs. And then if it drops back into the range, I think it's game over, the cycle's over, and we have a bear market in 2026. So in summary, I think Bitcoin is topped. I will be looking for swing shorts if we get any sort of bounce higher towards 114,000, between 114 and 118. And I think Ethereum might still have a run at 5,000 or 5,500 at most, which I'll also be looking for swing shorts at that point. And maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed for anyone holding alts, we get a rotation into that and we see a bit of a pump on Dogecoin and other altcoins. And I think if we do, it's the final pump. It'll probably be short-lived. It'll be the one to exit spot positions for me personally and to look for swing shorts once again into the bear market, which I think will be in 2026, but possibly even be starting already as soon as maybe October or November of this year. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know these videos are not popular when I talk about potential tops being in and bear markets. Everyone gets mad, everyone gets salty, but I'm just sharing the charts with you. And if you know what you're doing and you know how to read these charts and you know how to trade, then you can short it because, as they say, a bear market is just an inverted bull market. If you short, there's just as much potential to the downside to make money as there is in a bull market to the upside. Okay, it's the same thing. So it doesn't matter for me. That's why I make these videos. But every time I do, there's all these people in the comments, you're wrong, you don't know anything. Okay, why are you mad? Why are you mad? It's your money, right? You can do what you want. If you think it's going to go up, good luck. Stay fully allocated if that's what you want to do. And let's see by the end of 2026 where the markets end up. For me, I know what I'm doing. I have my strategy, I have my risk management, and I will trade it either way. If it's bearish, I will trade it to the downside. If it's bullish, I will trade it to the upside. And that's how it goes. And if you need a place to trade, BLOFIN Exchange, use my link in the description down below for bonus campaigns and cashback on trading volume.